Hello, what is going on, my beautiful weebs? Welcome to a new show on this channel that I'm gonna call the 3-episode rule. If you don't know what the 3-episode rule is, it's basically a thing in the anime community that says you should watch at least 3 episodes before judging whether you should continue or drop an anime. Now, I don't think that every single anime can, work with this rule, but for the sake of this show and for the sake of clickbait, I'm just gonna use it. Now I have to mention that this season will not include animes that are leftovers or animes that are second, third, and so on seasons like Slime Isekai or, for example, Tokyo Revengers. Instead, it's only animes that came out for the first time this season. Now, most people say that they think this season is a dumpster fire, and honestly, it's probably lower quality than the other seasons this year, but I think that with watching every single one that came out, I think I can come to a different conclusion, or at least maybe convince you otherwise. Speaking of dumpster fire, there's definitely some really terrible anime this season. Like, for example, Mother of the Goddesses Dormitory. This is a slice of life ecchi that follows around a 12-year-old boy. They really had to say he's a 12-year-old boy. Now, his house burned down and he was left on the streets, and fortunately enough, a girl picked him up and brought him to their dormitory. There, all these college girls, who are all 18 plus, by the way, do stuff with him. Look, it's already weird enough to watch it. It's not good. It's full of boobs and panty shots. There's nothing really going on. He's just their dormitory mom. But that's pretty much it. It's not good. Another one of the dumpster fiery anime on the other spectrum is Obey Me. Obey Me is an anime that I think is targeted towards 10 to 14-year-old K-pop stan girls who also are into yaoi a lot. There's not much to talk about this anime. It's 5 minutes per episode, and the episodes are basically these hot trope guys who are the different interpretations of the devil, and they are just doing regular things like playing video games and slacking off at school. That's it. It doesn't look too bad, but the voice acting is already off, and I don't think it's gonna be any better in the future. But this one, I think I may watch to the end just because it's 5 minutes per episode. Now, a dumpster fire that I actually enjoyed, weirdly, because it's definitely not an anime that I would usually enjoy. It's Girlfriend. Now, this is a kind of despicable show, because it's about this guy who found the love of his life in his childhood friend, and now a different girl came up to him and confessed his love, but now together with her they are gaslighting his girlfriend into a 3-way relationship. I don't have anything against polyamorous relationships, if it's all consensual, but this feels a lot more like gaslighting, filled to the brim with sex jokes, and yeah, that's all this anime is about. It's just about sex. It's funny here and there, but mostly weird. But the thing that I enjoyed about it a lot is that it's so over dramatic to the brim, and it's got some weirdly good direction going on. Like, you can see all of these weird angles and funky colors that some of the other slice of life shows could use, and the opening is a banger. Yeah, I will be watching this one. Now, there's a lot of shows that are kind of hard to judge this season, and of course I'm gonna watch more of them before dedicating my opinion on them. Starting off, we got a comedy show called Uramichi Onisan, which is a show about a depressed guy in his 30s, I think, and he's working for a children's show. There's a lot of doomer, millennial humor going on in here, and it's funny from time to time. It also includes the best laugh that I've ever seen in anime, which is this. And other than that, I can't really say much about it. It gets a little bit dark from time to time, asking questions of why am I even working, what is my purpose in life? But that comes with the self-deprecatory humor of millennials. So yeah, I think I'll be watching this one. Now we got a show that is actually really hard to judge, which is the cheat pharmacist slow life. After watching 3 episodes, it's kind of cute, but definitely has nothing going on for it. There's no premise, nothing is explained explained. He's just a pharmacist who we assume is from another world. I mean, the opener is just, this is our Isekai protagonist. He's a pharmacist. That's it. That's the entire intro to the anime. And he just goes around making potions and making things from our real life in this fantasy world that people really appreciate. That's pretty much it. It feels sort of like a children's show, if I'm gonna be honest. I don't really want to be too harsh on it. I don't even want to dedicate an opinion to it. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be continuing to watch this. Meikyuu Black Company is another anime and is one of the isekais, just like Chief Pharmacist's life in this season. It's a weird show about a NEET who worked really hard to become the Ultra NEET, but he gets zapped into another world where he has to work in a coal mine. He's more of like a Disney villain, and he gets, you know, he does this bad stuff like exploiting people and stuff like that, and then he gets what he deserves. For the most part, it's kind of funny from time to time, but I don't know if I'll be watching this. Now, the production is pretty decent in this one, and it's got some parts that, as I said, are funny. I don't know, this could be your cup of tea. For me, more or less, no. Now we got an anime that's actually quite intriguing, which is a Realist Heroes Kingdom Restoration Chronicles. It is a show about a guy who has nobody in his life anymore in real life and got randomly summoned into a kingdom by hero summoning. Then the king decides that he is to become king, and he is assigned his daughter as a bride. And this guy, being a student of finance, tries to work around the kingdom's problems in order to bring the kingdom into prosperity. The characters are actually kind of fun, and there is a lot to be learned actually when it comes to economics, as they do mention a lot of it, like supply and demand and budgeting and that sort of stuff, and they actually explain it in the show. The story could be evolving into an interesting story. It's decent for now. I will be watching it, but I don't have a lot of hopes for it because it's an isekai. Now we have an interesting show that is a bit divisive. That is Shinigami-bochan, which is a very weirdly well-written romance between a guy who everything he touches becomes dead. And he has this maid that really wants him to touch her. And he got basically cursed by a witch so that he can never love and nobody can ever love him because of that ability, of his ability, I guess. And it's got some interesting writing going on because of like, how does he deal with this, you know? His life is miserable, but at least he has that maid, and there's that one piano song that's going on in the anime. It's really beautiful. I really dig the writing, but the animation is full CGI. And there's another show in this list that has good CGI animation, but this one just isn't. When the characters are still, it feels okay, but when the characters are doing any sort of action, you can really see that the CG is very stiff, and especially because of the faces. I am, though, very much intrigued by the writing, so I will watch this further. Our next slice of life is Remake. It is a sports anime about volleyball. Water polo. Why did I say volleyball? The name of the show is actually a wordplay on a move that you can do in water polo, or rather a penalty. I'm not really familiar with water polo, but I think I'm gonna be learning through this anime. This guy was a top-notch high school or middle school water polo player, and then he got into an accident and lost all of his memories about water polo. It got some interesting family and friends dynamic, as he got amnesia and now he doesn't remember any of that. There's people who come into his life that remind him of water polo. There's people who come into his life that want him to play, but he isn't sure himself. And it sort of right now shows us, you know, determination and all of that sort of stuff in order to make your life like it was before, or life better. And even though it's a bit slow, the characters have a lot of life in them, and it's kind of interesting to watch. So based on that premise alone, I would have watched this show, but watching these 3 episodes, it's kind of decent. So yeah, I'll be probably watching this. Now, next one is Love Live Superstar, and this is Love Live, so I'm not watching this. Yeah, just kidding, but honestly, I really wasn't inclined to watch this. A lot of people say that this is a better Love Live because this is a new start for Love Live, and you can get into the anime from this point because Love Live is a really big show. But honestly, I don't think much of it. It's just the whoa, chronicles and bad life happenings of idol, but it's more fetishizing idol life, just like every other idol anime, you know. But it's trying to be like, oh, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, there is something bad going on, but it never goes like really hard on it, and the show feels like it's pulling its punches, and it's very soft, very soft. There's some points to give it, but I honestly don't think I'm gonna be watching this. Next up is a show called Scarlet Nexus, and fuck me, but I can't remember anything that I watched in this show. But reading my notes here, I can see that it's basically a show about there's a group that's defeating monsters, and it's not that good. I remember that there was a villain in there that they kind of showed just abruptly, and there's basically no mystery involving the villain. There is a little bit of mystery going on, as in, I mean, I would spoil it if I told you. But in essence, I think this is supposed to be a prequel to a video game that I haven't played, but I think it's big in Japan. As far as I can remember, it's watchable, but as you can see, I basically forgot everything that's going on in here. I remember everything for every other anime that I watched, except for this one. So it already feels like a 5 out of 10, so I can't really tell you much more. The next anime on this list is Battle in 5 Seconds, which is an anime about battles that last more than 5 seconds. Now, of course, I'm just joking. The 5 seconds refers to when you're challenged to a battle, it takes 5 seconds for the battle to commence, as they have these sort of handcuffs that keep their powers chained up, and when somebody challenges you, the cuffs come off within 5 seconds. It's a death game, you know, like Mirai Nikki or Darwin's Game, and I really enjoy that genre, but specifically this show seems to fall a little flat when it comes to the reason behind the game, just like Darwin's Game. They got really no incentive to fight at all, and they're given these powers that are sort of arbitrary, but the main character's power is very interesting, and I don't want to spoil it because it's at the end of episode 1, but it's actually kind of, it makes me intrigued. Now, I am a little bit biased here because I do like this genre, and I will be watching this anime because I like this genre. The last one in this segment of shows hard to judge is Boy Riverside. This is actually a different interpretation on a old Japanese folktale called Momotaro. Momotaro literally meaning Peach Boy, and he was born on the riverside. And it's basically taking a different approach to the original story, as in there is this couple who couldn't have a child, and then God decided to give them a peach, and from that peach Momotaro was born, and he was destined to kill the demons. Yeah, that's it. But in this show, they basically say, what if there was actually more peaches that fell from the sky, and there is more of these Momotaros who have to defeat these demons. Based on that, the show kind of works decently enough to be watched, and I know the writer is pretty decent. I will definitely be giving this another go, as I'm still not sure about it. But with that said, the same writer actually has 3 animes airing this season. One of them being Dragon Maid, which we won't be talking about this in this video. So Cool Kyo Sinja also wrote the Idaten Deities in Time of Peace, which is actually one of the newer animes that came out, I think this just last week, and I managed to watch only 1 or 2 episodes, I think. But it's a very, very colorful anime that I kind of enjoy. It's basically if you took Dragon Ball but replaced them with these more chibi characters, and it's a lot more colorful. There was these Idaten Deities who have defeated these demons, and they had to flee. There was only one left, and they're born when humans are in their time of need. Now there's another a demon, presumably, I didn't say anything, who came about, and now he wants to revive these demons in order to take control of the world. And now there is war going on, and people are again in their time of need, but the Idaten Deities cannot do anything about it because it is humans versus humans, and they only appear when it's humans versus monsters. And it's putting a sort of parallel, like how people basically destroy everything around them, but then also weirdly help when a forest is burning, they put it out even though they're committing deforestation constantly, stuff like that. It's actually a very interesting premise, and I'm definitely going to be watching this one. Another very new anime that only I've watched one episode of because there wasn't any more is The Great Jahy-sama Will Not Be Defeated. No, wait. The Great Jahy Will Not Be Defeated. It is a cute anime about this demon lord, and she got defeated by a magical girl and now lost all her powers and got all-mighted into a little girl. And she has only one mana gem left, and she can use that mana gem to all-might herself back to, you know, the big girl. And what can I say? You got a big hot girl and a small cute girl, but it actually has plenty of personality, and it's really cute, especially once you learn of the other characters. Now, unfortunately, it's only one episode, so I can't judge it that thoroughly, but I'll definitely be watching this one as I kind of liked it. Now, moving on, there's actually a lot of shows that feel very promising this season, and we will be starting off with The Detective Is Already Dead. The first episode of this anime got me really hyped, and I was really intrigued by it. It's got some really nice animation going on, which is weird because the studio isn't that big. And the first episode got this concept of basically there's this detective girl, and then there's these people who have weird body parts like parasites, and they basically just want to make the world a bad place. So the villains aren't that good, but the first episode is basically just a introduction or like a backstory, and the story begins on episode 2 when we learn that the detective is already dead. And they make this very clear. It's mentioned a lot of times per episode. But there is some parts that are rather predictable, and I'm not sure if they actually are predictable or they're just well set up. I still have to, I'm gonna have to watch it in order to find that out. It's interesting. Nice reveals, definitely gonna be looking forward to this one. Another anime that I didn't really expect to interest me is Remake Our Life. In episode 1 of this anime, it goes from, wow, this is really interesting, to, oh no, this is just another basic ass slice of life, to, wait, this could actually be really interesting. The first episode is 50 minutes long, and well, it's good because it's 50 minutes long. Basically, he made a bad choice for college and he wished that he never did that, and now he is taken back into his college years so that he can fix that mistake. At the end of the episode, we see this question of, what am I going to do with my life anyway? Because even as an adult, he didn't know, and he has to re-ask himself that question. There's a cool plot twist going on in episode 1 that you should just watch it to see. It's definitely worth your time. The next one that quite surprised me is Nighthead 2041. This is a sort of cyberpunk themed anime that is full CG, and it's good. There's of course the same mistake that everybody does, and that is that the CG of the characters is in lower FPS, and that there is characters who aren't CG but they're hand-drawn, so you basically know which characters are gonna last long and which characters are never gonna be seen again. But it is a story about this clash of ideals where basically the government of that country has decided that everything that cannot be physically proven is illegal. So stuff like worshipping a god, or spiritualism, or spiritual energy, or all that sort of stuff is illegal. And if you practice it, there's a police force, whose story we follow, comes knocking on your door and arrests you and or eliminates you. But on the other side, we have the interesting introduction of characters that came out of a lab that the owner of the lab actually let them escape from. They were only going to be released when the world is ready and accepting spiritual energy, but they were put into the midst of the hate and the persecution of spiritual energy. It's a really cool premise, seeing the clash of these two, and there's a plot twist that goes on in episode 2 or 3 that makes it even more intriguing because it's definitely worth a watch. The next one is an anime original called Aquatope of White Sand, which is an anime about failure, looking for your dreams and achieving your dreams, I think at least. Because the main character is a failed idol who got fired from her job because she wanted to do something good. Then she flees to Okinawa, where she meets a girl who wants to keep her aquarium that is supposed to be shut down. Now of course this one girl has lost her dream, and this other girl still has her dream and one helps the other and blah 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 and so on. The anime feels like it has movie level production, although not really production, but more like it has some scenes that are reminiscent of a movie. And it's giving me some sort of Makoto Shinkai vibes because of how, you know, it's real life and it works off of real life scenarios. It's got these some fantastical elements that Makoto Shinkai also uses to give this anime sort of epicness and sort of greatness, and there's a cool plot twist in episode 3, and honestly talking about the story would just spoil it because it's kind of good. Yeah, go watch it. The next one that's a little bit weirder and a little bit less good but still decent enough is Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy. This is basically what people are calling Konosuba 2 because it really does feel like Konosuba. I mean, there's a spider lady who is basically the same as Darkness from Konosuba, and it is a sort of parody of Isekai, and you know, it makes fun of itself and blah blah blah, and the characters aren't as good as they are in Konosuba, but this anime, unlike Konosuba, focuses more on story and kind of on world building, and it gets kind of fun. There's definitely interesting characters and there's definitely waifus along the way. There's not much to talk about it. It's basically a guy who was given powers by Tsukimichi because his parents are actually from another world. He was sent off to a goddess who was supposed to control him because he's a human, but then she actually threw him away because he was ugly. He landed between orcs, and we got a very endearing pig lady. I don't know, I really like her. She has the same voice actor as Shinobu from Demon Slayer. And most of the characters are rather endearing, and it's basically following his misadventures as he's trying to build a world that's better for everybody else around him. So yeah, I'll be watching this one. Another one which is maybe kind of hard to judge but also really interests me is Kageki Shoujo. It's about theater performers that go to this Kageki school. I don't know if it's a high school because there's everybody from the age of 15 to 19 in there in the same grade. And it's basically following the story of these two girls, one who's super tall and one who is depressed, who used to be an idol, and it is following their adventure throughout this high school. It is safe to say that there's some vibes going on that feel like real high school vibes, like you get a little bit like secondhand embarrassment from the characters, or like really mean people who are there who just want to make fun of you, bullies and stuff like that. Not in that sense, but you get the vibe of basically it being a real high school. It's not a shonen or a shoujo, it's actually a seinen, so we can expect some deeper talks in this anime, so I'll be watching that. The next anime on this list is gonna be the case study of Vanitas. This is a Studio Bones anime, and you can immediately tell that it's Studio Bones because it's really well animated. It follows these vampires around, Vanitas being one of them, who is actually an old vampire who has a curse on him because he was born under the blue moon, not under the red moon like other vampires and stuff like that. And I really think the show might go in a direction of throwing away people because of superstition and stuff like that, or it could go into the complete other direction, just be an action shonen, which it sort of feels like. In episode 3, it gets a little bit rapey. Yeah, basically Vanitas, who's supposed to be this pretty boy, he paralyzes a girl and then he proceeds to literally molest her, and everybody looks at it as like crazy old Vanitas molesting girls. Yeah, it gets a little bit weird. But the world building is set up pretty nicely and it intrigued me enough to continue. So yeah, we'll see how this anime will go on. And last but not least, we have something that is already my favorite anime of the season, which is Sonny Boy. And I hate that I put this at the end because I really want people to watch this. I write notes when I watch anime, so you know, like, and I pause every 5 minutes to write notes. But for this anime, I didn't pause at all. It took a long time for another anime to intrigue me that much to not want to pick up my phone and write notes, because I am so hypnotized by it. It is basically this entire high school, or rather I think 1 or 2 classes in that high school got transported into an alternate reality, and it is all black. And some of them got powers, some of them didn't get powers, and there is this one guy that decided that we should, you know, make democratic reform because of these powers. He starts exploiting people and he starts telling people what to do, and it's giving me and it's giving a lot of people very much this Lord of the Flies vibe. Just figuring out what the rules of the world are is so interesting because the characters are really well done, and I already can tell that I'm gonna be making a video on it probably when it ends, just because I want the entire thing before I start talking about it. It's hard to sell it honestly, because you just have to watch the first episode, because anything I say feels like it's a spoiler and could ruin your experience. Even though there's not much that's happening, it feels more like a character story of just a lot of characters in this weird alternate world where physics don't make sense and also do at the same time. It's chaotic and it's fantastic. Please go and watch it. It also feels like there's some sort of deeper meaning behind it. It definitely feels like it's going philosophical, but I still can't catch it. I think we need to see the bigger picture. I've got some of the parts of it, like with their powers and how they work, but in reality, I'm willing to wait for the end in order to get the whole thing. And subscribe to see the video. So yeah. So in conclusion, yeah, this season isn't that bad. It's got some funky animes that you wouldn't expect, and it's got some animes that could be potential animes of the year, I even think. And you shouldn't really, you know, let go of an entire season just because the titles of the season aren't that big. You know, we don't have another season of Jujutsu Kaisen this season, and no, Chainsaw Man isn't airing this season, but just because these titles are unknown doesn't mean that the entire season is going to be garbage. But yeah, when it comes to this season, I will watch most of them. As I said in this review right now, I will watch most of them, and there will be a top 10 list at the end of the season. So if you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe. And there is also going to be a top 10 of the year, potentially a top 50, depending on how I feel. But right now, I feel like fucking dying because I spent so much time on watching this. So yeah, I'm gonna go knock myself out right now after recording this video. But you go ahead and like, and please leave a comment, and please subscribe. So that's been it. See ya.